Nathan, I want you to come in on this because perhaps this is unprecedented. I don't personally know, I may be wrong and you can correct me if I'm wrong, of a constitutional authority of the stature of the Vice President participating in such a debate which is so clearly focused on a domestic political issue. One can understand if he was waxing eloquent about something that had, international implications, but that's not the case here, is it? And look at the people he is sitting with.
Good evening, Madhav, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. I've been waiting and listening very patiently for my turn, and I haven't heckled or interrupted anyone. I hope in this hour-long debate I get my two uninterrupted minutes. Thank you very much. Madhav, I have always been of the opinion that much more important than where you speak is what you speak. So left to me, if ISIS invites me to their platform to speak, I would happily go there and speak, but I would not, be laudatory of ISIS. I would criticize ISIS. So that has been my opinion, that what is important is what you convey rather than where you convey it. And to be honest with you, by peddling fake narratives and selective anti-India propaganda, I'm sorry, but the ex-Vice President Ansari demeans his image more than he demeans India's. Perhaps, as was alluded to briefly, he is still smarting from the time when Modi laid bare his Islamic fundamentalist antecedents in that farewell speech that he was forced to hear and watch with rapidly reddening ears and eyes. And so he thinks by indulging in such propaganda, he can get back at Modi. Well, people can see through his selectivity and victim card. Remember, he was the one who backed draconian Sharia courts, publicly felicitated an organization that decapitated the hand of a Christian on account of blasphemy. And he is talking of intolerance. He sees only Muslim victims, but has been silent on more than 180 Muslim mob hate attacks on Hindus, Dalits and non-Dalits over the past 3 years, including Bharat Yadav, who was lynched after being called a kafir, including in Ranchi, where a Muslim mob segregated, yes, Madhav, segregated bus passengers based on their religion before wanting to set it on fire. Right from fake church attack narrative and running selective hate trackers to multiple stories of fake Jai Shri Ram slogan triggering, Ansari and his gang have perfected selective outrage. They never outrage on the BSP selecting as a candidate a man who offered 51 crores to anyone who beheaded Charlie Hebdo journalist, or when Mehbooba Mufti condoles the death of Wani the terrorist, or when Congress's Harish Rawat says those who kill a cow have no right to live in India, or when an SP legislator slaps a woman entering Haji Ali, or when Congress legislators demand hanging of Kamlesh Tiwari, or when Yasin Malik is celebrated by Manmohan Singh, or when Congress leader Kannan laments why Modi and Shah have not been killed yet, or when Muslim leaders make incendiary Hindu-phobic speeches, or when tens of thousands collect for funerals of terrorists, then it is not intolerance. Ansari has, I'm afraid, Madhav, just 10 seconds, 30 seconds if you please, has allowed himself to become a dog whistler and a part of this magical mystery tour made up of a motley crew of religious fanatics and Modi haters, including an extremist hack who cautions Muslims to strategize and stay secular until they obtain majority, a deranged writer who thinks Rafale is an aircraft carrier, a washed-up actor who blames Modi for the crimes of Mamata, a bigot stand-up who jokes on Godhra train burning but soils his pajamas when it comes to making fun of his own religion, a kitty party journalist who says she doesn't advocate Indian rule in Kashmir, a screechy RJ who demands equal rights for women as long as women are not Muslim. Together, these fundamentalists proceed from one conference to next, one platform to another, spreading their hate and propaganda. You can't stop them, Madhav. You can only expose them.
I want to bring in the Congress spokesperson. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, of course, you make any sense. What else could he be given? Even if that is true, why is an individual then leaving the party fold?
Good evening to all my fellow esteemed panelists.
No, absolutely, it doesn't make any sense. But before I come to the thrust of my, I have to
Mr. Chaudhary, because I think he should be more economical with his criticism, because who knows, he might be joining the BJP next week. If not, he might be starting his own party, Congress K. And the fact of the matter is, when he says that these people who leave, they are career politicians, well, Mr. Chaudhary, you would know the history of Congress. Congress has been split more times than uranium, 37 times, more than there are letters in the English alphabet. In fact, I keep reminding my good friend Sanjay Jha that I, who normally vote Nota, would vote for Sanjay if he were to form Congress Jha. But he refuses to do that, and he accepts being called suspended Congress for the last 2 years. But now let me come to this. Madhav, we have to accept what the Congress spokesperson and Mr. Sanjay Jha is saying, because The fact of the matter is that the only person in India who is never... We saw that recently, didn't we? In the run-up to the Bengal elections, where netas were changing parties so fast. Who from the TMC came to the BJP before the election, and who from the BJP went back to the TMC after the election. Madhav, politics is the most successful public sector undertaking ever devised. This is because the players know and understand Darwinian nature and survival of the fittest. They are competing to survive. They are mutating to survive. Before RPN Singh, there was Mr. Maurya, who crossed over last week from BJP to SP. And before he crossed over to the BJP,
he was the BSP. But as I said, this is not new or unexpected. And that is why, for us common people, it is foolish to invest so much time and energy watching from the sidelines what is essentially a roulette. The players switch sides at will and no one loses in the long run. Ex-Madhav is a prefix found most frequently in a politician's CV. Ex-BJP, ex-Congress, ex-BSP, ex-AAP, ex-CPIM, ex-TM, pre-poll alliance, post-poll agreement, coalition dharma, caste arithmetic, regional agreement, local pact, religious deal. These are all telltale genetic markers for the disease called politics. And count yourself lucky that you're not infected with it. But as I just 30 seconds. I hope the reason is political and not an impending ED or CBI raid. Because as you know, from Goa to Manipur, Bengal to Karnataka, every single politician when in trouble has dipped himself into this Behti Ganga that is the BJP. And miraculously,
that's a question, certainly.
So I just hope that Mr. RPN Singh was not at the receiving end of an impending CBI raid.
Okay, that's a question that I will put to Nupur, but I want to bring in Anand Ranganathan first. Anand Ranganathan, when questions are asked from within the Congress party's fold as to what is going on, senior leaders like Mr. Ibrahim are today on national television saying nobody consults me. I have been a union minister more than 20 years ago, yet this is the state of affairs. It is the high command culture which paradrops leaders who are not even acceptable perhaps to the same legislative council in which he is an aspirant for becoming the LOP.
No, absolutely, Madhav. And my good friend, Mr. Chaudhary, I can see very clearly he's treading on very thin ice because he doesn't want to join the ranks of suspended Congressman Mr. Sanjay Jha. That's why, if you remember, yesterday, he was very scathing towards Mr. RPN Singh. And today, he is cushioning this kind of ejection, I would say. I would not call Mr. Ibrahim, who's a very senior Congress leader, very respected Congress leader. I would call that, he has left on his own accord. I think he's been pushed out, to be very honest with you. And that is why I repeat what I say. Congress, you may call it the GOP or whatever, is actually like Titanic. And Rahul Gandhi is the captain. He is steering the ship all night long in search of icebergs. And Mr. Chaudhary and a lot of other people are rearranging the deck chairs or playing the violin. It is no use. Can I bring the analogy right here, just 10 seconds, Madhav, of Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma, who met the same fate as Mr. Ibrahim is, facing now. He said, Rahul Gandhi did not have time for me. What is worse, and I hope Mr. Ibrahim did not see the same fate as Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma, who was offered the biscuits that Rahul's dog Pidi was offered. So look at, it's not just the ignoring senior Congress leaders, it is humiliating them. For how long will they stand? Mr. Chaudhary has to realize the writing is on the wall.
Okay, let me bring in fact, not just Mr. Chaudhary, I want to bring in Suman Siraman. Suman Siraman, we are ignoring his contribution to the freedom struggle, says Kamru Zaman Chaudhary. He is not disputing the fact that his legacy in terms of the actions against members of other communities, including Hindus and Christians, that is well documented. He is not disputing that, but he says that as a nation, the fact that he fought against the British, should that be completely ignored? Your response?
Now, Madhav, I've been waiting to my esteemed fellow panelists.
Please give me a couple of minutes because it's very important. There are two issues here. Number one, हो ना हो, मैं मिस्टर संजय गुप्ता जो कि शिवसेना के स्पोक्सपर्सन है उनसे कुछ हद तक मैं एग्री करता हूं बिकॉज हमें इस हिपोक्रेसी में नहीं पड़ना है तू मैं पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज तुमने एक उनका पॉइंट जायज है 7 साल से सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है अभी भी दिल्ली में औरंगजेब लेन है 5 साल से महाराष्ट्र में गवर्नमेंट थी बीजेपी की और शिवसेना की या बीजेपी की अभी भी औरंगाबाद का नाम औरंगाबाद ही है चेंज नहीं हुआ है एनडीए गवर्नमेंट बिहार में अभी भी नालंदा को जिसने जलाया वहां का रेलवे स्टेशन बख्तियारपुर है तो पहले अपनी गरीबान में झांक के देखिए लेकिन माधव आप प्लीज यू ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड द इशू हैज टू बी डेल्ट विद साइकोलॉजिकली इट इज फिलोसॉफिकल it is not this political tutu meme. So please give me a couple of minutes. It's very important. I'm going to deal with only facts. History, Madhav, that is written by the victors is peddled by the vanquished. For 70 years, we have been taught to forget historical injustices. We have been taught to eulogize genocidal mass murderers. There are hundreds of examples, but just one would suffice, Tipu Sultan. And one must read his manifesto. It is written in his own words. It is a terrifying proclamation calling for all Muslims, quote, to come together to convert infidels and wage jihad. Quote, whoever refuses to obey would be treated as an accursed infidel, unquote. Here is Tipu Sultan in his own words to Budruz Khan, quote, you did right to circumcise the captive knives, unquote. Tipu Sultan was outraged, Madhav, that some Muslim rulers weren't following the tenets of Islam and had turned supporters of the infidels. Quote, annihilation of the infidels was a sacred duty, he wrote admonishingly. The Hindus of Kurd suffered a particularly brutal onslaught by Tipu Sultan, and in their thousands, murders, tortures, forced conversions, no one was spared. Even dead Hindus were converted, even dead Hindus. Tipu destroyed 800 temples, 27 churches, captured 60,000 Christians, converted 30,000, killed thousands, emptied Bangalore of them. 400,000 Malabar Hindus were converted to Islam by Tipu Sultan, who considered this as jihad. Descendants of Mandya Mahingar do not celebrate Diwali till this day. Ever wondered why, Madhav? He butchered them on Diwali. Read the personal account of butchery by Tipu Sultan in Calicut by Bartholomew. Men, women and children were paraded naked and trampled by elephants. Tipu tortured, murdered, converted tens of thousands of Hindus and Christians, destroyed their temples and churches, openly called for jihad against them. And yet, Congress calls them symbol of communal harmony.
Okay.
Just 10 seconds, Madhav, 10 seconds, I beg of you. The Indian left,
Quickly.
This is important. The Indian left cheered when the statue of the evil racist King Leopold was removed in Belgium. But celebrate Tipu Jayanti because tyrants are not tyrants but heroes. Praising Tipu is like praising King Leopold for building roads and forts in Congo.
Balancing out ivory trade and a million murders.
All right.
Madhav, there is no difference between Tipu Sultan apologies and
We're almost out of time. Almost out of time. Quick reaction.